to Reign, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of Reign, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is set process goals instead of outcome goals. Successful people with a growth mindset focus on the process instead of the outcome. An example of an outcome goal would be, I want to lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks. Instead, give yourself some daily process goals that will contribute to losing weight. A process goal would be, I will exercise for 30 minutes a day. In your investment business, a goal may be to get more properties to flip. Instead of saying, I will flip 12 properties this year, say, I will evaluate 10 properties and submit one offer a week. By shifting to process goals, we can consciously choose a path in which hard work, effort, and persistence will be the key to success. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us a superstar, John Dessauer. In addition to running the Dessauer Group, John and his wife Heather are serial investors of their own and have investments including apartments, single-family homes, office buildings, and raw land. They own Oppenheimer Realty Capital, Mantis Media, and Anton Agency / Anton Asset Management. John is a modern-day Renaissance man, a rookie boater, a mediocre runner. He performs wedding ceremonies, listens to the jazz greats, and my newest friend. I had the pleasure of meeting him at the most recent Re-Up conference in Columbia, South Carolina, and I can't wait to continue our conversation here. So welcome to the show, John.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. To be honest with you, I'm a little nervous because of you and your energy. Yeah,
you
for sure.
Are so fabulous. You were the MC, and I think I just kind of took you off guard when you had to introduce me, and I, maybe slipped a curse word in on it, just a little bit. I did. And you're like, whoa, who is this chick? So I had such a pleasure meeting you. And by the way, there was one more thing. You're a former basketball player?
Yeah, former is the key word there.
What position?
Correct. I was a guard.
I'm a power forward.
Okay. All right.
I did the whole AAU thing and was on I know. So
is this our new team? Is that what you're saying?
I can box out with the best of them. I'm just telling you. I use what my mama gave me. All right. So I'm so happy to have you on the show because my personal goal this year is to get 101 doors, and you are going to teach us how commercial real estate can reinvent someone. I so want to be reinvented, so teach me everything. But before we get into that, tell us about you. How'd you get involved in real estate? You've been doing it for what, 300-400 years?
Yeah, I'm that old. I feel a lot older than that, actually. What's so interesting about my journey in multifamily has been the fact that, I grew up, I was a single parent household. My father passed when I was younger at 4 years old. And we lived in apartments, ever since then. So I learned that business from the inside looking out, where a lot of people learn it from the outside looking in. And that probably made all the difference to me. When you see your mom go to her 9 to 9, but you see the rent guy come once a month to get that check, And as an adult, you decide, hey, who do I want to be? I wanted to be that rent guy. I want to be the guy collecting the checks instead of, paying the bills there. So that's really what got me started a long time ago.
All right. And you've been in the business, seriously, 25 years?
Yeah,
I know. You're that.
I don't look that old. I get it.
You started when you were what, 8, 9?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. I've been doing this for over 2 decades. It's crazy. But when I got started, I did what a lot of people do. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people do. I went to college. I went to good school. I got out in the workforce in the corporate world. And, like many people, I felt like, what the heck is going on here with this situation? And I got out of there thinking that, there's got to be a better way. And there was. And that was, for me, that path was real estate investing, and specifically multifamily real estate.
So from day one, you were doing multifamily?
Pretty much. My first property that I bought was a duplex, and then I went from a duplex to an 8 unit to a 10 to a 30 to on up from there. I've done single family houses. I've done a lot of them, but I really like the velocity of money that is made on the commercial side. And you mentioned it earlier about reinventing yourself financially. It's because of the way that commercial real estate is geared, enables someone to reinvent themselves financially in a shorter amount of time with commercial real estate.
So I have just noticed in the little times, because I really just started probably about February or March to start tapping into this industry. And I am doing a lot of marketing. I'm actually doing pretty successful with direct mail, which is kind of shocking, but I'm sending out letters and I'm getting calls. And what I'm noticing is it's totally different working with someone who owns commercial property versus a homeowner with a single family home. There is no emotion. It's like, here are the numbers, blah, 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 blah. And they're so cool. I'm just like, what have I been doing for the last 5 years? So I can't wait to get more into this. So on that aspect, because I am still looking, do you have any go-to lists? I know you have a marketing company.
Yeah.
Do you have any go-to lists where I should send my letters to?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 3 of them.
Ooh.
And how's that for a bonus?
Do I have to buy into your marketing program, or are you just going to tell me what these are?
Okay. These are freebies. I'm going to give them right to you. So, what I like when I'm marketing to people in the multifamily world, you hit it on the head. I'm dealing with investors already. I'm not dealing with a family that has emotions tied with the house like that. But what I'll do is I'll look for 3 things. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can use the county resources. Typically, you can use software for this. You can use, other things as well. But what I'm going to look for are 3 things. I'm looking for, this is one example, by the way, of these 3 things. I'm looking for what we call AOs, absentee owners. I'm looking for FCs, free and clear, properties that don't have a mortgage on it. Even on the commercial side, there's properties that don't have a mortgage, believe it or not. And then I'm looking for 1 or more other variables. This could be evictions. It could be code violations, things like that. And so when I send out messages to these people, the reason that I look for at least 3 of those, if I've got a building owner that owns, a 12-unit building that is free and clear, that is obviously he's an absentee owner. He doesn't live in one of the units. The reason I even bring that up is because there's a lot of duplexes and 4 units in which the owner will live in one. So in this example, free and clear, absentee owner, the owner doesn't live in the building. And I can tell from the public record that they're having evictions there or code violations, whatever that other variable is. Then I will craft that letter to talk specifically to that owner. And I'll say my company works with investors just like yourself that might have invested money into a building that, you're not near the building. You use a third-party manager and the management company isn't getting it right. You have a ton of evictions. You're not bringing in the income you thought. We work with solutions to help you get out of that scenario. And I'm a lot older than you. It's apparent, Jen. It's apparent. But I
don't know about that, young man.
Yeah, there used to be a singer. I believe her name was Carly Simon. And
Okay.
what was her song? What was her song? You remember her song?
You're so vain.
You're so vain. That's right. I bet you think this song is
It's
about you.
about you.
And that, for everybody listening on the
I told
podcast,
you I can hang with you as far as age.
yeah. So for that, what's interesting about that is when you craft these marketing letters, or we don't typically do postcards on this side. That's a single family house side. We just do professional letters on professional letterhead. But when we craft these letters are written to that owner so that the owner thinks that that letter is all about them. I bet you think this letter is about you, and it is. And so that if you can do that, you're going to get the attention a lot more of these investors, because what has happened, especially now, this is why this is the greatest, I don't want to say the greatest time in history, but I don't know of another time that's as good as it is right now, with this market kind of changing and the interest rates going up and people kind of freaking out. I like that, but over the last couple of years, there's been so many investors that have bought real estate, bought apartment buildings from other areas of the country, sight unseen. They really don't know what's going on, but it's trendy. And so they buy these buildings. They run into the issues that I'm talking to you about here right now: code violations, evictions, poor management. And this is where your opportunity lies. So if you can do that, you're going to be in good shape.
All right. And this podcast is over. Thank you, because that's all I needed. Appreciate it. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
You're so vain. All right. So now that I have a great way to approach these sellers who have these apartment buildings, and I'm looking for 5 or more, because that is considered a commercial property, but the ones I've been getting have been around 12 units, 10 units, up to 24 and 30. So I'm not like jumping to the major ones yet, but the price range. So we do have one under contract right now. It's very low, and it needs a lot of work, and there are vacancies. And what the problem, and again, this podcast is clearly about me for right now, but how do I finance this bugger? So it is a 12 unit, $250,000.
Yeah.
And by the time this releases, by the way, by the time this episode airs, I will have already closed, so you all can't have it. All right, I'm just throwing that out there. So it's only $250,000, and this is my very first commercial deal that we will be financing, and I'm running into an issue of it's too small, it's too little per unit. Some of these lenders want to see at least $50,000 per unit, like value per unit, and it's not going to be, because these are teeny tiny in very rural Virginia. I'm also, I'm working with my single family home lenders, and I have a lot of private money lenders, but they're more in the $50K to $60K space. I may be able to find someone to do the $250,000 plus some repair budget. So I'm kind of focused on doing it with a private money lender to do the purchase price plus some repairs and then refinance it. So we're working on that. But I just hit so many walls. Where do I go to find financing? And this is, like I said, a special case. We have other ones that they're asking like 1.2 million, which will make more sense, but talk to me.
Yeah. So
or just write me a check, and then we can, then we can really stop this podcast. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. On a building like you're talking about, the best pathway for you and all of the listeners that would be listening to this would be to look at small regional banks and credit unions for that type of purchase. There is such a thing called institutional debt. So what's institutional debt? That is, like getting money through Fannie, Freddie, FHA, and you could do that, but your best bet is going to be to strike relationships, John, relationships up with small regional bankers. And that is where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. There's other ways you can get there as well. There's creative financing, seller financing, using equity from somebody else to help you with the down payment and in all kinds of other ways and strategies. But for the most part, if you want to get this thing financed through an institution, you're going to be looking at a small regional bank or credit union.
Perfect. All right. So the next property we're going to see tomorrow is a 10 unit. It's beautiful. It is in Lexington, Virginia, and it's near the college campus of William and Lee. And it typically will house college students. So they pay for the year, but they're really only there from August to June. And he wants closer to 1.3, 1.2, 1.3. We're in discussions there. So I don't have a private money lender for that amount of money. So where do I go first to finance this? When I get it under contract, by the way. See how I said that? When?
Yeah. So did you say William and Lee or William and Mary?
William and Lee.
William and Lee. Okay.
Lexington. It's also, there's a military college right there as well.
In high school, I got a scholarship from William and Mary. That's why I bring that up. You're bringing me back.
I am so sorry to interrupt this episode, but I need to correct myself. I meant to say Washington and Lee, not William and Lee. All right, back to the episode.
So yeah, so write this down. 65% of your time should be spent on sourcing money as a commercial real estate investor. 65%. That's a majority of your time. You need to be thinking of money. The mistake that novice investors make when they're working on getting that first building or getting up to 100 is they spend the majority of their time looking for buildings, analyzing buildings, doing all of that stuff. And that stuff's important. But as far as priority is concerned, you want to, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you're focusing on the money. There's two sides to every deal. The first side is the equity side. The second side is the debt side. So we talked a little bit about debt already. That's the small regional bank, credit unions, institutional debt, things like that. The equity side, think of it as your down payment. The beautiful thing on the commercial side, as opposed to residential, is they don't really, a lender doesn't really source that like they do on the residential side. You know, on the residential side, they're always trying to put those loans in a box so they can sell them off. And that does happen on the commercial side, but not nearly as much. So where you get your equity from isn't as big of a deal as having it in the first place. So in the 65% time period, a lot of that time you're going to be working on the equity side. So this could be other investors. This could be, using someone's 401k or self-directed IRA or self-directed 401k. There's all kinds of ways to raise that. Right now in 2022, what are we in? Towards the end of July here, we have the problem is finding places to get a good return. It's getting harder and harder. There's less opportunities for that. So if you can become that source, you're going to have money just thrown at you. And I know you love that.
I love having money thrown at me. Yes, thank you. But who are your, besides, coming from single family homes, and I just go to a hard money lender, and then I have a private money lender in second position on the loan. I always use OPM, other people's money. So I don't know what type of banks do commercial loans, and it seems like they're super picky about certain things, or do I just bypass and go straight to people?
Yeah, so a switch I'm going to have you make is we're going to stop thinking like an individual, Jen Josie. Not that you're bad, you're fantastic. But I want you to think more like an entity. We're going to switch it to General Motors, General Electric, General Mills, right? We want to be an entity. So when General Motors wants to bring in debt, they don't go to a hard money lender, right? Just not going to happen. And you're not going to either, for the most part, from this point forward. You are going to use private lending because corporations use private lending. They're just called private hedge funds and private equity. So we're going to do that. And then on our lending side, the banks that you're talking about, every bank, I can't think of too many, but mostly every bank is going to have a commercial side. Every credit union now has a commercial side. And so don't think just because you're at a small bank in a small community that they wouldn't be able to lend commercially. This is who you should avoid the Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. If you want to have a checking account and you want to have online banking, maybe that's the place for you. That's called retail banking. But if you're an investor on the commercial side, you really want to have a network of these small regional banks and credit unions that you could go to for the debt side. They love to lend. They love to lend to people that are prepared. So you're going to, again, think like an entity rather than an individual, and you'll be in good shape. There's a lot of benefits to that. You do have to do some things that are a little bit different, but there's a lot of benefits to that. One being personal credit. It's not that they never check your personal credit, but it becomes less important than on the residential side.
And they're looking more so at the stabilized value of the property and things like that, correct?
You got it.
All right, yep. Perfect. So going back to the private money lenders, are we talking syndication? Are we pooling people together? Or am I looking for one private money lender who's got a huge, chunk of change?
All the above.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
So when you start out, you're probably going to be looking for that private lender that's in your community or in your network. I'll give you a side tip. The tip is when you work with private money lenders, if you go to them and ask for money, you're going to get advice. But if you go to them and ask for advice, you're going to get money. And what I mean by that is someone could be a private lender. They've never lent money before, and they don't know really what to do or how to be approached by that. So they get freaked out. So I would start asking for advice. Hey, I've got a deal here, and just let me get your perspective on some things. I'm looking to put together these type of funds, but look at how this performs. What would you do in that case? I'm telling you, there's scripts for this and things, but the way that conversation typically leads down the road with somebody today that's qualified financially is they're going to want to be a part of that deal in one way or the other. So that would be an approach that I would use for that to be able to get that equity side. Once you have the equity, the debt side is easier.
Okay.
And so when you have these people in your network or your community that you've lined up that are ready to go. That's the other thing, is to make sure they're ready to go. Make sure they really have the money. You know, people, Jen, they talk, they talk, they have the money, but they really don't have the money. Make sure somehow, some way, quantity and qualify them from that standpoint on having the money in place and ready to be deployed. This isn't something that's in a 401k that you got to wait on, and that's not too long of a wait either, but in an account that is liquid. That's really what you want. So once you have that in place, then you're going to be going to the debt side, and it really makes that process easier when you kind of line it up in that fashion.
That was such a huge nugget. Ask for advice and the money will come. I love that. Man, John, you are a genius. I am loving this.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
You are a genius.
Okay, yes, that's going to be ringing through my ear the next couple of days.
And good looking. So one more question about financing. I am used to getting projects and doing what we call in the single family home side, the BRRRR strategy. So when you talk about going to these financial institutions, are you talking about just buying them outright and doing like 30 years or whatever, or the ARM and doing all that stuff? Or are you having a little extra in there for a little bit of a rehab budget so you can, drive the rents up and then get it to a higher stabilized value, et cetera, increase the cap rate, all that fun stuff. So how does that work when you're financing that you need to buffer in a little bit of budget for repairs?
Okay. So a cool thing that we do on this side that residentially you don't do is because you're thinking like General Motors, General Mills, General Electric, what a professional company would do is they would pay themselves an acquisition fee. So you're going to get paid an acquisition fee just for buying the property. That's the first income that you're going to make. Just by closing on the property, you get a check. And that check, in theory, is going to cover, your efforts in putting the deal together, your due diligence, all of that stuff. And typically that's, let's call it 1% to 3% of the deal. So on that $250,000 deal, right, you're going to, let's say that you get 3% of that. That's $7,500 that you're going to get as a check at closing. There's nothing like getting checks at closing and keys. That's really, you think your day is going good right now, Jim. Wait till you do that. So that's number one. Number two, you're going to know and understand prior to closing what your rehab plan is. A lot of times you can get that rehab financed through your loan. So you want to start talking about that. In a lot of cases, they'll finance 100% of that if you can show them that that's going to drive what we call the NOI, the net operating income of the property. That's the holy grail of real estate on our side of the world. So if you can do that, a lot of good things come. So you want to make sure that you have all of that in your budget, all of that highlighted, ready to go moving forward prior to closing on that.
Huge. Thank you for answering all my finance questions. I want to get back to that very first thing we were talking about, and how does commercial real estate reinvent someone? Because I am so ready to be reinvented. So tell me what it's going to be like, John. What's it like over there on your side of the world?
Yeah. So reinvention is a good thing. We're always reinventing ourselves, right? I just finished a book called Do Hard Things. And it's about pushing yourself and how we used to motivate people to do hard things in the past, typically through athletics. But that science has changed today. For a lot of people, buying a 12-unit building is a hard thing. But what we do and what I focus my career on in helping people is three words: impossible, possible, and then probable. When you roll through that journey and you get to probable, it's like, hey, this is going to happen, and you don't start off that way. You start off by saying, this could never be done. And so now I'm going down a path and I forgot the original question, but
what is it like to reinvent? I mean, how am I going to be reinvented? What is life like owning 101 doors?
Yeah. So reinventing yourself for a lot of people seems impossible. That's where I was going with this. But really going through this journey in making, getting 101 doors, it's going to happen for you. It's probable, as long as you follow the right systems, tools, get the right guidance, that type of thing. And what I mean by reinventing yourself financially, you have a mechanism on the commercial side of the world that you just do not have on the residential side of the world. Growth in value on the commercial side of the world is exponential, and it has to do with the term cap rate and capitalization rate. And we don't probably have the time on the podcast unless you want to go 24 hours, right? You know what I mean? Whatever you want to do. But that gearing enables somebody, if they can raise the NOI, that's the holy grail of our world. If we can raise the NOI, let's call it $100,000 on our project, and that's at a 10% cap rate. We just increased the value of that building by $1 million. And so that's using a 10 cap. If we're in a 5 cap market, we just raised the value by $2 million. And if those numbers are too big for anybody, cut those in half. I don't care where you start. The point is the exponentialness, if that's a word. I just made one up. That's my badassery as I invent words. But that exponentialness is the very thing that can reinvent somebody in a short amount of time by just doing a few things a little bit different.
What I love about you is that you are reinventing people by teaching them all of this. And you have a program called the Commercial Essentials Program. And tell the listeners how they can find this. And because everything you just said was just like, because I'm learning it myself. I'm working on it. I'm trying to do everything. And you need someone to guide you through these things. So how do the listeners find you so they can learn more from the wise John Dessauer? How do they do this?
I appreciate that. I just like listening to you talk about that subject a lot. You could, so yes, I've made that kind of my life's mission. I've been doing that for a long time as well. First of all, you can find that information just by going to my name, johndessauer.com. And what we have on there, Commercial Essentials, is a program that helps people either transition from the residential real estate investing side of the world, wholesaling, flips, things like that. Or let's say that you've done nothing and you're just starting out, like I did. My first purchase was a duplex, and I bought an 8-unit building and a 10 and then a 30, and I went on from there. But let's say you're starting out with no experience. Sometimes that is better because I don't have to go in and break some of the habits that you might have or some of the things that you picked up residentially, because it is a little bit different. So in either one of those cases, we're really good at getting people to the probable. Starting out by something that it seems impossible, I can get you to the probable. You just need to let me do a couple of things. It's a coaching program, and it lasts anywhere from 6 months to a year. And we have not only different exercises, training videos, and things like that, but I may be mentoring you one-on-one. So we've got strategy calls. I'm putting together your deals. I'm the architect of the deals. I'm talking about how you're going to raise money and get that loan in place, and really what happens from contract to close. And then that's one of the scariest days when you actually close on the property. You're like, oh, geez, what do I do now? I have these 20 units, and all these people are calling me on maintenance items, and how do I manage this and things like that?
No, I don't want that. No, I'm just kidding.
You do want that.
I do want that.
But that's what we help out with. We've been doing that for a long time, and we really pride ourselves on our work with that.
All right. So they look up John Dessauer, and that's JohnDessauer. And you can also find him at thedessauergroup.com. I've been on here. I like your little Real Wise owl, by the way. What is that about?
You said I was, my wisdom, and that just kind of the owl plays along with that. By the way, the H in my first name is silent.
John.
Yeah.
John. All right. You are so funny. So you heard me at the start of and by the way, thank you for sharing some of those amazing, badass, just nuggetage right there. There, I made up a word for you, nuggetage. So great. You heard me say a badassery bestowment at the beginning. Do you have a piece of advice you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I think that most people can do way more than what they're doing right now. And what I mean by that is, and maybe it's coming a little bit from this book I just read, Do Hard Things, but I think that most people, they get comfortable, and the way that you reinvent yourself financially, the way that you do hard things, is you embrace that uncomfortableness of what you're going through and get ahead of it, and expect that difficulty to come, and have a strategy and plan to work through that. If you can do that, you can have amazing, life-changing, whether it be financial, physical, mental, any of those things happen in a short amount of time. You just have to make the decision and move forward.
Well, John, I appreciate you sharing all of this, and we are going to move into the second half of the podcast, but hold on. I have to open my next beverage, so give me just a second. Okay, because it's my Friday that we're recording this.
I love it.
So the second half of the podcast is what makes John a badass, and I use the acronym BADASS, and the first B is for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I read a lot, and one of the things that I've read, I believe it's 18 books this year so far.
Wow.
And one of the things that I like about reading is the places that it takes me. And I I can be working, I can be doing family stuff or other things. And books always seem to take me to places. But one of the books that has made the biggest impact on me this year that I've reread, I read it when I was younger, is Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. And, he was a Roman emperor a long time ago. And the interesting thing about this book is, as the most powerful person in the world at that time, he didn't know he was writing a book. He was just keeping a journal about his life. And typically when people write books, they're writing it to an audience. He was writing it to himself. And just the wisdom that he had in that book on everyday life and everyday challenges with life and how to handle those really kind of made the difference for me. So I'd recommend that to a lot of people.
So does he meditate, or is just the messages he does is a meditation?
Yeah, just the messages.
Okay.
The interesting thing, like I'll pull one out for you that he talked about in the book, is the idea of, everybody lays in bed in the morning, and when they lay in bed, they have a choice of either staying in bed, hitting that snooze alarm, or getting up and doing the difficult thing. And he talks about, why would I want to get out of my bed? It's comfortable here. Again, he's writing this to himself. It's comfortable here. I'd rather sleep. But he starts talking to himself in a way that, our Creator didn't give us this opportunity at life to take the easy path. We should be getting up out of bed, excited to do things that we were made to do. So whatever it is that you were made to do, be on a podcast, be a real estate investor, write a book, an author, an athlete, whatever it is that you do, you should want to get out of bed and start making that happen, because that was probably the sole reason that you were created in the first place. And so he's writing to himself, talking, having this conversation with himself. And that's why I found the book so fascinating, because again, he wasn't writing to give advice to anybody. He was writing to give himself perspective as the most powerful man in the world at that time.
I am going to have to add that one to the list because I've never heard of that. And I'm really pushing meditation. I've been meditating for a couple of years now. Vance is just getting into meditation. So he's still confused on things, but I know the book is not about meditation, but it's like just makes such a huge difference. Do you meditate daily?
I do a lot. I wouldn't say every day, but probably 4 to 5 days out of the week.
Yes, I'm the same. It just makes such a difference and starts your day and gets you out of bed, right?
Can I say one other thing with
Please.
That book? The other thing that was interesting with that is it's written in very much a language. This is the Roman Empire, and sometimes ancient books and Stoics have a different way of talking. You've probably read books and you're like, what the hell are they saying? Oh, can I cuss on here? Is hell a cuss? I don't know if that's helpful.
Hell?
Yeah, hell. Did I cuss? Did I say that? I don't know.
Do you know who you're talking to? I
do. Yeah, I do. So what's interesting though, is when he was writing this, this is like 186 AD, to give you perspective of time. When he was writing this, he's in Rome. So obviously Roman and Latin is his native language, but he's writing this in Greek. It's very popular at that time to write. So he was writing to himself in not his native language, but he's writing in Greek. And then, so I just found that fascinating as well. In his mind, he's got to talk to himself in another language and still giving some of the best advice that I've heard that's so relevant today.
That is fantastic. And thank you for bringing that up and even delving deeper into it, because I love a good book. So thank you for sharing that. All right. The first A in Badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would say the best advice that I ever received was reading and try to read every day.
How do I get my husband to read?
It starts with letters, and you're going to put those letters together.
Like magnets on the refrigerator, those type of letters?
Alphabet letters, put them together. Those are words. You put those words together, sentences. That's where I would start if I was Vance.
Yeah, he just has a hard time. He says it makes him tired, and I love reading. Love, love, love.
Yeah, listen to audiobooks. That may be a different way for him to get through that.
We're working on it. We're working on it. All right. The D in badass is drive. What drives John to be successful?
I think that there's a small chance that we're ever here in the first place. And, when at the end of the day, at the end of someone's life, if they didn't do what they could to be the best that they possibly could be, I think there's a huge chance of disappointment there for not only ourselves, but whoever it is that created this whole life scenario. And so for me, that's kind of my drive, is to, how can I, at the end of the day, at the end of this life, kind of say, I gave that 150%. And I'm so glad I did, because look at how many people I affected positively, and look what I was able to accomplish through that.
What a lovely soul you have. You get on stage, you are the MC of this event where I first met you, and you're Mr. Funny Guy, but you're doing a lot of educating and dropping these nuggets, and then boom, look at you. What a soulful person. I just can't wait to become better friends with you. All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. It's my goal to lose some weight. What is a goal you are currently working on?
I'm training for a marathon that I'm running September 25th. So
how many miles is a marathon?
It's 26.2. And as the way I understand it, it's not the 26 that'll get you, it's the 0.2 that'll really get you in the end. But so that's really kind of what I'm aspiring right now and working on. And for me, that's really been a challenge. When I first started this, I probably couldn't have ran a half a mile, but now I'm running about 50 miles a week. And again, it's impossible, possible, probable. This is going to happen. I'm going to run a marathon. And so that's what inspires me right now.
I used to be very proud of my 0.0 sticker on my car, because you see like the 5K and then moves up. Yeah, I was 0.0. And
Take that.
Take that.
Yeah. 0.0. Take that.
All right. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
For me, this is where I'm going to give credit to somebody else. For me, if my wife is a system in all of her own. And she keeps me on track along with my calendar and scheduling, but she really does keep me on track. If I didn't have her, I just would not be where I am today, or be able to probably function, to be honest with you. It's not that bad, but that's a system. I think it's who you're with makes a really big difference in how much you achieve and really how much you enjoy life. So I'd have to give the systems to Heather.
And I feel 100% same way about Vance. I feel like we balance each other. He's the accountant. I hate numbers. And so he and I'm clearly the looks and the mouth behind the business, but he is the numbers. Yes, exactly. So I saw that Heather was getting a master's degree, or has she already gotten a master's degree in education?
Yeah, she's getting her master's degree in education. This is kind of one of the themes of do something hard, do hard things. She's getting her master's degree in education, something she's always wanted to do. And she loves the aspect of teaching and working with kids and really school administration. Her parents were both in that field. So she's working through that right now. 2023 graduate. So I'm kind of sleeping with a college chick. It's kind of cool.
Well, I taught school for 16 years, and I woke up one day and realized I hated children. So I hope that doesn't happen to her as well. And that was the best form of birth control, by the way, was teaching middle schoolers, just so you know. So keep her in high school or college. All right. The final S, we're going to wrap this up, is success. What does success mean to you?
I think for me, success really plays into how well my children do. This is a kind of an idea that I've taken from, my parents and my grandparents, who I never met, by the way. That's so interesting. And that could be a whole show in itself. But the idea of, those people spent so much of their lives. We're the reason that they were there in the first place, our ancestors before us. And so that's why, for me, it's made an imprint on how important and how well of quality of life. It doesn't have anything to do with degrees or how much money you make or the kind of car you drive and things like that. It's, are you living a good life? And I think if my children can just live a good, happy, quality life, no matter what they're doing, whether it's working in a ditch, which I don't think they would do, but you never know, or being a rocket scientist, I'm good either way, as long as they're happy and they're living a good quality life.
Well, you make me happy. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm telling you, going to these events and things like this, I can't say it enough. It's so great to make connections. Real estate is all about relationships, and I am so happy you have crossed my path. I hope to have you on again sometime so we can talk about all that other fun stuff. You are fantastic. Listeners, one more time, you are going to look him up by John, J-O, silent H-N, Dessauer, D-E-S-S-A-U-E-R, and check him out. He is such an edutainer. He educates and entertains. Another word. There you go. So thank you, John, for being on the show. Any final words for the listeners?
Hey, we're in a great time right now. It's 2022, July, with the exception of a few minor things, life is great, and you should not take that for granted.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, John. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.